Hi, my name is Watson. Welcome. This is Shonen Spotlight. It's now been 10 years since 2010. That was the year I failed pre-calc, so you may need to check my math, but I'm pretty sure I nailed that. 2010 was also the year high school me decided to embrace all his weebly interests, spurred on by a year of EV training in Pokemon Platinum and the spectacle action anime about card game motocross. 10 years and too many cardboard purchases later, my taste in anime has expanded from Kids WB imports and Shonen Jump mainstays to include hundreds of diverse shows, over 40 of which aired during that time that I believe worthy of the designation of being the best of this arbitrary length of the comforting yet inevitable and terrifying construct we call time. So instead of getting lost in my own existentialism, I thought it might be more fun to group some of these works by a common thread and put out a few recommendations from my experience. Today I'll start with the best shows that use Japanese culture to craft or enhance amazing experiences only possible through animation. Now these are in no particular order of quality, but I will start with an honorable mention. One Piece began airing in 1999. Pardon my math, but that's 20 years of consistent weekly content that's best material is well over 10 years old. However, in June 2019, something changed. Luffy and his crew entered the land of Wano, a secluded archipelago with closed borders that shares uncanny likenesses to Edo-era Japan and old samurai films. One Piece can be something of an aesthetic chameleon, its artistic style changing with every new setting and story Eiichiro Oda wants to tell that has ranged from a Lawrence of Arabia adventure to a Tim Burton-style haunted castle to an Alice in Wonderland-type forest. Ever since the story jumped ahead 2 years in its timeline, the One Piece anime hasn't been the same. Toei had been treating it as a cheap cash-in on the world's best-selling manga, but Oda had been hyping up this new arc for years, and after seeing the story ramp up with the proper introduction of some real endgame antagonists, it seemed Toei took note. One Piece is finally again getting the love and care it deserves from the anime staff. After years of feeling obligated to watch the frankly bad adaptation of my favorite manga to show my support, the One Piece anime was finally good again. Honestly, it shouldn't amaze me that the footsteps I see Luffy make match up with the sound design. That should not be a compromise made for the sake of pumping out the moneyest making series in Japan's domestic market. But God, when it happened, I knew the anime I loved was back. All this to say, the last 29 episodes of One Piece have brought me more joy than I've felt from this series since the auction house on Sabari. If you ask me where to start with One Piece, I'd tell you to read the manga from chapter 1. But now I have more canon animated examples of how cool this series is and what you've got in store for yourself. You know, eventually. One Piece is a little long. Okay, on to the proper recommendations. Now, there were a few anime last decade that took concepts from Japanese mythology and set them in the modern world. Most of them were shows I didn't watch about people falling in love with fox spirits, but 2 of them stood out as something special. Noragami, for instance, takes the concept of Shinto's 8 million gods and follows one minor god vying for the attention of the living just beyond the sight of the mortal plane. Yato, the self-styled delivery god, takes on any request for a 5 yen piece, from scrubbing toilets to destroying the phantoms caused by the dark emotions of humanity in hopes of saving up enough to buy himself his very own shrine, the ultimate status symbol for a god. These gods also offer refuge to wayward souls that can in turn aid in the gods' endeavors as objects. Yato's Shinki, or regalia as these souls are called, is a young boy he names Yukine that becomes an unfinished katana wrapped in a long bandage when called, letting the old war god kick like 12 kinds of ass. Noragami is able to introduce concepts like this and keep within its own rules to be compelling enough. But the show is also able to realize the impact on people coming into this world of not being dead, but not really being alive. Its strongest emotional moments come from Yukine and the god Bishamon, coming to terms with the position they're now in. But I'd be doing you a disservice to spoil anything more than that. The characters are easily the most compelling part of the show, as some of the plot points can be logically questionable or overly convenient, but allow the characters to leave an impact. Except Hiyori, whose entire purpose is just to be really good at being present for everything. There are a good number of jokes that land well, especially in the early few episodes. The animation is not the best Studio Bones has ever put out, but their quality work is unmistakable. The fights are great, the monsters are effectively creepy, and the soundtrack slaps, man. Season 2 left me salivating for more, and 5 years later there's been nothing said about any continuation. I've tried the manga, and didn't really have the same magic I felt for the TV version. But no single anime to this day can match the magic I feel for this next show. 2013 pulled me into watching seasonal anime with giants like Attack on Titan and guilty pleasures like Gargantia on the Verdurous Planet. That same year gave me what I still consider my favorite anime of all time. The Eccentric Family is a slice-of-life show that presents a fantasy version of Kyoto where humans and legendary creatures like the fearsome wind spirits called Tengu and the shape-shifting Tanuki live side by side. Yasuburo Shimogamo is one such Tanuki whose favorite pastimes include dicking around and messing with people. He's basically my spirit animal. In his busy days of pulling harmless pranks and chilling out, Yasuburo's interactions with his friends and family bring something to light. He with his mother, 3 brothers, asshat uncle, 2 idiot cousins, the better cousin, an old Tengu friend and mentor, and a human woman he's both terrified of and infatuated with all knew Yasuburo's late father, and the truth of the circumstances of his death slowly fall into place. This deep and colorful cast weave together a story of family and loss that can make you laugh and cry, while always keeping your attention with its atmospheric settings, eclectic soundtrack, and Studio Ghibli levels of magical whimsy. That's probably overselling it, but I don't care. This show has transforming raccoons flying sailboats over a mountain during the Obon holidays, and a cold, powerful woman who can effortlessly fly through the sky, grabs breaching whales by the tail for fun, and can step all over me if she wants. Whoa. Sorry, lost myself there for a second. The story itself is easy to follow, with a natural progression that takes each season through about a year of these lives. And each character gets more and more complicated as Yasuburo just shoots the shit with each of them. There are some downright philosophical moments on display, and just as many turns in the plot as the mystery unravels. As you get to know the characters better, their witty interplay and Yasuburo's dry humor really shines through. Season 1 stands alone very well. I've watched it through at least 5 times. Season 2 builds upon who we know, and adds a few more to the cast, and a little more to the depth of magic we can expect. The author of the original novels this series is based on, Tomihiko Morimi, also penned The Tatami Galaxy, Penguin Highway, and The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, and I've become a huge fan. Each of those has adaptations I'd love to discuss at some point. The folks at PA Works did a magnificent job for the show as well. As the 4 seasons pass, the watercolor backgrounds change the feel of each episode. The character designs have a beautiful simplicity that allows a lot of fluid motion even during the scenes where people are just sitting around talking. But for every still scene, there's another where someone turns into a tiger, or a chase that could end with someone getting eaten by a club of rich people. There's so much more I could talk about, but you just need to watch it. I implore you to give this show a chance. Now, 2 of my favorite films of all time are The Incredibles and The Iron Giant. Both of these films are period pieces that inject a fantastic element. The Incredibles, for example, takes a 1920s Art Deco style and the retrofuturism of the 1970s, marries these aesthetics to a phenomenal story of 2 parents just trying to make it work, and creates the best Fantastic Four film ever made. Films like that require a unique vision to create an immersive world to play around in. 2 anime from the last year alone did something very similar exceptionally well, with different eras of Japan and the local mythology. That is over. Dororo from Studio Mappa is thankfully tonally very different from the original manga by Osamu Tezuka and its first adaptation from the 1960s. Dororo 2019 takes itself very seriously with its dour outlook, bloody reality, and beautifully grotesque animation following a child cursed at birth, stripped of most of his body, and how he struggles to regain what he's lost. The cursed child Hyakimaru is a blind deaf mute with 4 prosthetic limbs at the outset, but he's still able to shred any demon in his path with the swords embedded into his arm stumps. Early in his quest for revenge, Hyakimaru is joined by a scrappy young orphan named Dororo, who thinks Hyakimaru is just super neat, and more importantly, very lucrative. Together, they travel the harsh, war-torn, and monster-infested countryside, filling Dororo's pockets with cash by selling Hyakimaru's extermination services, while Hyakimaru literally regains his senses and takes revenge on his father, the feudal lord that offered his firstborn to the demons in exchange for the prosperity of his land at a time when piety had done him very little. That's one of Dororo's biggest strengths. The antagonists make sense. For every mindless monster devouring midwives, we're shown another brought about by someone wanting to right a wrong, whether perceived or real. And in a country ravaged by countless battles, there are a lot of people desperate enough to turn to a malevolent being for vengeance. Hyakimaru is the inevitable balance from Eastern philosophy that snuffs out these evils, though he himself wouldn't say as much, aside from being mute. Through a lot of the series, Hyakimaru is robotic, going from place to place killing demons not with a sense of righteous justice, but with single-minded resolve to regain his body at whatever cost. But it's the smaller moments of just him and Dororo together that Hyakimaru's true nature comes out. He has only slightly more social development than your average toddler. When Dororo joins him as his manager, together they're able to get what they each want individually, but they also gain each other. I love these two, and I could hardly wait each week for the next episode to see them again and hope these two buddies would get out of this shitty situation in one piece. In the end, few anime this decade have been able to give as satisfying an ending as this one. The next show takes us from the 16th century to the early 20th century for Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. And man, this show fucking rips. After Tanjiro Komodo's family is attacked by a demon, killing all but the eldest of his younger siblings, but leaving her a demon herself, Tanjiro vows to find the demon who did it and a way to change his sister Nezuko back. The studio behind powerhouse action shows like Tales of Zestiria the Cross and Fate Zero, the only good thing to come out of the Fate series, I Will Die on This Hill, Don't At Me, Ufotable is no slouch in this production. They were able to show off nearly seamless CGI and fight sequences the internet cannot shut up about. And it's set at a time when the rest of the world is caught up in the war to end all wars, meaning the rural areas are still very rustic and traditional, while the cities are taking steps toward modernization. It's a time period found in too few anime I've seen, and I love every second of it. The series is action-heavy, even for a Shonen Jump adaptation, but it doesn't shy away from strong themes and characterizations. Tanjiro is the simple shonen protagonist with a strong sense of justice, but he's also far more compassionate than his contemporaries, even to the monsters that broke his family. Nezuko may be a silent cutie pie Emoto, but she's also a demon. And through the season we begin to see just how much ass she's able to kick. There's also Inosuke, the pig-headed best boy who wears a boar mask, whose appearance and mannerisms really make me wonder if this English wordplay was intentional from the start. The demons keep the series interesting by showing that not all demons are malicious, planting hope for Nezuko's recovery, giving the bad ones powers and designs on par with the better villains Shonen Jump has put out, and the anime only had time for a few with real motivation. The best stuff is yet to come. I was mesmerized by this series since I started the manga, and I'm ecstatic it's gotten the adaptation it deserves. Demon Slayer is well worth your time. Our time machine only needs to jump forward a few more years for our last anime, set one Japanese era later than the last. Instead of killing demons, this show deftly handles one of Japan's oldest surviving oral traditions and interweaves a deep character drama few stories can come close to offer. Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju is a masterwork of visual storytelling depicting the struggles of 4 performers through the golden age of Rakugo and beyond. One of these masters in particular takes center stage as the through line for the other 3 performers as he ages. This man Yakumo is a sad, angry old fart who can't forgive himself for something that happened way back in the 1940s. He lives with Konatsu, the daughter of his late colleague Sukeroku, who wants to perform like her dad and believes Yakumo was responsible for her father's death. The first half of the series shows Yakumo and Sukeroku's life before the Second World War, how they met, learned the art of Rakugo, the trials that life brought for the both of them, and the ultimate end of Sukeroku's life. The latter half shows Yakumo's curmudgeonly treatment of Konatsu as he takes on an apprentice called Yotaro instead of her. Because women, am I right? Rakugo Shinju is one of those anime that will stand next to Legend of the Galactic Heroes one day as that show all your pretentious internet friends tell you to watch if it isn't already at that point now. You really owe it to yourself to give it a try. I mean, at the very least, it is much shorter than Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Rakugo itself is a performance art of one person seated on their knees telling a number of traditional stories with only a paper fan and a cloth as props. The performer will play all roles in the story like Daddy did, reading your favorite Betty Bye story. But unlike Goodnight Moon, these stories range in tone from comedic to scary to sad, all without the full range of motion a Shakespearean actor would be accustomed to. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a boring thing to animate, especially when left to a contemporary studio dean. And yes, on paper, that sounds terrible. Frankly, no other anime I've seen in the last decade can hold a candle to these sequences and the subtle cues brought together in the voice work, direction, and cinematography. The two Rakugo performances in just the first episode show everything going through the actor's head as he tells his tale in the first, and the audience completely drawn into the world of the other. Add to that the gripping relationships between the principal cast and the drama that tangles them together, and you have a strong contender for the greatest anime of all time. Now I get a lot of you don't come to anime for this kind of experience. Hell, I didn't. This is Shonen Spotlight. I live for dudes punching each other and long-winded monologues on the power of friendship. So leave a comment with your favorite Japanese culture-inspired anime, whether from this decade or any other, and tell me what kind of anime I should cover next. I've got a lot of these planned and other ideas as well, so be sure to subscribe and follow me on the socials. Links are in the description below. And if you're interested in any of the anime I talked about, you'll find links to those as well. Until next time, see ya.